Hi everyone and welcome back to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
And we're on part 2 of our TOEIC article. So yesterday we were with Andre. He was supposed to be on a flight to Tokyo, but his flight was delayed. So he went to talk to the agent at the boarding gate to find out the problem and, more importantly, how long he'd have to wait.
That's right. And when he spoke to the airline agent, the person who worked for the airline and was answering questions, he found out the plane had engine trouble, so it was broken, basically. They were waiting for a new plane to take them, but that plane would only arrive in 3 more hours, so he would be 3 hours late arriving to Tokyo. Now, if you were on a holiday or something, that would just be inconvenient, but for Andre, it was a big problem because he had a business meeting in Tokyo. He had important customers or clients waiting for him there, and he couldn't be late. This would be real trouble in his life and in his job.
Yeah, so he tried to suggest something. He saw the same airline had a 3 p.m. flight, so he said, "Can you put me on the waiting list? So if someone cancels, then I can get on there." But the agent said that this would be a doubtful idea. The plane was fully booked and there was maybe a longer waiting list, so that wasn't going to work out for Andre. He said he probably won't be successful.
But Andre still couldn't afford to be late. This wasn't enough for him to just go, oh, well, I guess I'll be late. No, he wasn't accepting that. So the agent suggested, well, there's another plane at 3:15, so he'll be a little bit late. But the problem with this is that it's on a different airline. It's a totally different company. So Andre will have to buy a totally new ticket. It's like if you go to a restaurant and order a bowl of soup you don't like, and they say, well, they have a different soup next door. You can't go and just get a new free bowl of soup at a different restaurant. You have to buy it all over again. So he was going to spend a lot more money. But for Andre, it was worth it. His client he can't really be late for the meeting with his client. But of course, he's going to spend a lot more money. So he is not a happy Andre.
Exactly. And he's not just going to let it stand. He plans to complain to the company's headquarters. He's going to write to the airline, tell them all this stuff. Tell them how unhappy he is and all the rest.
I'm going to talk to your boss. Ugh.
Yeah, and as we see in the title of the article, he's going to request a refund for what happened. He's going to ask for his money back.
Oh, okay, for the plane that didn't go.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we're going to read his letter in today's article, so let's check it out.
Reading. Requesting a refund for a delayed flight. JetMax Airlines, Customer Services Division, 380 Section 1, Xindong Road, Taoyuan. To whom it may concern. On January 21st, I was booked to travel to Tokyo on Flight 387, but the flight was delayed. The gate agent said it would take 3 hours to find a replacement plane. Because all your other flights to Tokyo were full, I had no choice but to buy a ticket on another airline. Therefore, I am requesting my money back. I understand that you can't usually provide refunds for unpredictable setbacks. However, I don't understand why you didn't put us on the plane for the 3 p.m. flight instead and have its passengers wait 90 minutes. You made the passengers on my flight wait twice as long. Because you failed to handle this situation well, it caused considerable problems. I departed later than expected at twice the cost, and then I arrived late to an essential business dinner. I had put a great deal of preparation into the meeting, but instead, I was embarrassed in front of a valuable client. I trust you will be understanding and return my money in full. Sincerely, Andre Teo.
All right, so our article today is actually a letter that Andre is writing to to this airline, the one that canceled his plane, and he's expressing how unhappy he is. And then, of course, at the end, he'll say, pay me back for that money that I gave you for that ticket that I never used because of your stupid broken airplane. But since it's a letter, he has to begin it in some way, and you can't just begin it by saying, hey, stupid, or something like that.
Well, you could.
You could, but it's not really the best way to start a letter. It's certainly not a way I would start a letter. So he begins it in a very polite kind of business type of way by saying, to whom it may concern. Ooh, that's a nice way to start a letter to someone you don't know. You don't know who is going to read it, so you can't say, Dear Bob, or Dear Mr. Jones, or Dear Mrs. Thompson. So you write, to whom it may concern. I guess you could say, Dear Sir / Madam. That might be a way to start it. Dear man or woman who is reading this letter. To whom it may concern is basically anyone who might be interested in this. I guess you're the person I should be writing to.
Yeah, concern here means whoever's involved with this particular
who might be interested.
subject. Yeah, so it's saying to whoever this needs to go to whoever is reading with and dealing with my letter.
A polite way of saying, hey, you.
Yeah, it's a very common, very, very common phrase for a letter or an email when you're not sure exactly who you're supposed to be writing to get this done. So you use something that means whoever is dealing with this problem.
You could just say hello, I guess, but that's not quite as a business-like.
Right. So Andre then starts to give the details of what happened. He kind of, we know the details, but he does need to put them in the letter. So would you if you were writing the same thing. So he explains, on January 21st, I was booked to travel to Tokyo on flight 387, but the flight was delayed. Of course, we know this, but he does need to explain his circumstances in the letter.
Yeah, this is a letter of complaint. So yeah, you definitely have to say why you're complaining. If you were happy, you wouldn't be writing the letter, but they don't know who Andre, oh, this is that Andre guy, and it was that plane last week. No, so he has to explain what happened. So he tells them when this happened, where he was going, why he's unhappy. There was a delay. And then he explains more. The gate agent, the person who worked for your company, the gate agent said it would take 3 hours to find a replacement plane. So now we're getting more into the details of exactly what went wrong and, of course, why he's unhappy. Yes, this replacement plane, this was that new working airplane that was supposed to come and take them because the other airplane was broken. And that's basically what a replacement might be. It's something that takes the place of something else, often because there's a problem with that first thing. So it's the B thing that takes the place of the A thing. All right. For example, if you sit down on a chair and the chair cracks or it's not comfortable or something, and someone says, oh, here, try this chair, it's more comfortable. That's your replacement chair. If you're in that restaurant and they have a bowl of soup and there's a dead fly floating in your soup, they're not going to say, oh, just take the fly out and eat it. No, they're going to bring you a new bowl of soup, hopefully without a dead fly in it. That new bowl would be your replacement bowl of soup. It's B, which takes the place of A because A is no good. For example, waiter, there's a dirty spot on my spoon. Could I get a replacement? And since we're talking about a thing that takes the place of another thing, of course, a replacement, this would be a noun.
So, Andre explains a bit more about the problem and exactly why he has to complain now. He says, because all your other flights to Tokyo were full, I had no choice but to buy a ticket on another airline. This phrase, to have no choice but to do something, you follow it with a verb. So here in the sentence it's buy, but you could use any other verb in its normal basic form. If it basically means this is the only choice a person had, or there was nothing else that could be done. There were no other ways out of this problem. Now, this isn't exactly true. Andre could have just waited for 3 hours. So saying he had no choice but to buy a ticket on another airline is not exactly the strict truth. He could have just waited 3 hours. But he is claiming that this was the only thing he could do in these circumstances, and that's why he uses this grammar pattern. I had no choice. There were no other options but to buy a ticket on another airline.
All right, so therefore, he explains, I am requesting my money back. So now we get to the heart of the matter, what he really wants. He wants his money back. He's explained why, and therefore is so, right? After you kind of explain the why, the because, you get to what happens after that. So, I am requesting my money back. I want my money back. A request is basically when you ask for something, especially in kind of a formal way. If you say, hey, can you pass me the salt? You are requesting the salt. You are requesting or asking that person to pick it up and give it to you. You could say, I'd like to request the salt, please. But that sounds a little formal. We might use request for more of a letter or a business type of situation or something like that. But basically, you're asking for something or you're asking someone to do something for you. For example, it's a long flight, so I will request an aisle seat, right? So I can get up and move around the plane more easily on this long plane trip or long flight. You could say it's a long flight, so I will ask for an aisle seat. That's perfectly fine too.
Yeah, so Andre wants to get his money back.
Give me my money.
Now, he's also going to try and show that he has maybe read the airline's policies and its rules about refunds. And so he's going to say, look, I'm not just some guy yelling. I've done my research. I know what should be happening here. And he states that I understand that you can't usually provide refunds for unpredictable setbacks. So he's saying, yeah, I know that in normal circumstances, you don't give anyone their money back when you hit this kind of problem, because a refund is money back. You've already spent that money, you've already bought something or paid for something, but there was a problem with it. You don't want it anymore. You're not happy with it, so you say, I want a refund. Maybe you buy a pair of shoes and then you get them home and you realize there's a problem with the shoes, or you try them a bit more and they don't fit. Maybe you can get a refund. You take it back to the store and ask for your money back. Or maybe you are at a restaurant and you get served a meal and it tastes terrible. You say, this is awful. I want a refund. I can't eat this. There's some kind of problem with it. So I want my money back.
And a lot of money it is, right? It's an airline ticket. So, of course, he wants it back. Now, unpredictable, when we talk about something being unpredictable, we're saying it's something you can't really say is going to happen. You can't kind of see the future. So the future is unpredictable, right? You can make a good guess. You can say, I think this will happen. But if it's unpredictable, you can't know 100%. You can't be sure. Well, he's kind of saying, I understand it's not your fault. The plane broke. You didn't plan it that way. Kind of like if there was a big storm or a typhoon or something like that. This is unpredictable. It's something that the airline can't really see is going to happen.
Yeah, but it is a setback. This is all one word, setback, and it's a problem or a difficulty, generally one that delays something. It doesn't cancel it. It doesn't stop it completely. It doesn't ruin your plans 100%, but it does delay something. It makes something slightly worse or slightly more difficult than it was before. If we use a phrasal verb, we could say it will set you back. It will cause a problem or a difficulty, and more than likely, some kind of delay.
All right, so this is a little interesting, the way Andre is saying this. He's saying, the plane was delayed. We were all going to be late. But he says, and I want my money back for this other plane ticket. But he also said, now I know you couldn't expect this plane to be broken and for us to be late. But he thinks they still could have done something else that would have helped him. However, he says, I don't understand why you didn't put us on the plane for the 3 p.m. flight instead and have its passengers wait 90 minutes. So basically, he's saying, why did we have to wait 3 hours? You had a plane leaving 90 minutes or an hour and a half later. Why didn't you put the passengers on that plane back to the 4 o'clock plane, and then we could take the 3 o'clock plane? So make them wait, so then we don't have to wait as long. Interesting. But then they'd have two planes full of passengers who had to wait instead of one plane that had to wait for a long time.
Right. So, it's whether you want one group of unhappy passengers or two, because even if you're only waiting 90 minutes, you're still going to be unhappy about it. And he does state, you made the passengers on my flight wait twice as long.
Okay, so he thinks they could have done that. If he was the manager, I guess he would have done that, or at least he's saying he would have done that. I don't think that would have been a good idea. Because then, as we said, we would have had a lot more angry passengers. But he says, because you failed to handle this situation well, it caused considerable problems. Well, yeah, certainly for you it did, Andre. But that's basically what he's saying. That's his criticism. That's what he thinks they did so terribly wrong. They failed to handle this situation or this problem. They didn't do well when trying to fix this problem. And for Andre, at least, it caused considerable problems. When you fail to do something, this phrasal verb basically means you did not do something. You should have done that thing, but you did not do that thing. All right, so it's something you said you would do. It was your job, your responsibility. You promised to do it, but you failed to do it.
Yeah, and that caused considerable problems. Considerable is an adjective that means a lot of, a great deal of. It could be a great deal of in terms of number, or it could be a great deal of in terms of significance. So considerable problems could mean a lot of problems, or it could mean very big problems. I think in this case, very big problems is the more likely meaning, because considerable can be used in a couple of different ways. Here's an example sentence that uses it in the same way as the article. Janet's job puts her under considerable stress, so she's thinking of quitting. So it's a great deal of stress, very important, very heavy, very kind of powerful, significant amounts of stress.
All right, and he kind of explains these considerable problems that he's so upset about. I departed later than expected at twice the cost, and then I arrived late to an essential business dinner. So this is the problem that I had to deal with, he's saying. I left later than expected, right? He was late, yes. At twice the cost, remember he had to buy a whole new airplane ticket on another airline, so he did. He kind of paid twice as much. He paid 100% more, and then he was still late for an essential or a very important business letter. When you depart, you leave, all right? Arrive is when you get somewhere, and then depart is when you leave. We often use this in kind of a formal business or travel kind of way. If you go to the airport, you see those big screens that show you when the planes are leaving. That's the departure board. Departure would be the noun form. The leaving planes, the planes that are departing, are listed on those. They're leaving, taking off, going away from a place. For example, in another travel situation, you might hear this announcement: the train will depart from platform 4 at 7:30 a.m. The train will leave the station. It's going at 7:30.
Yeah, and Andre says this was an essential business dinner, so something that's essential you can't do without. It's extremely important. We could also say it's necessary, it's critical, it's vital. All of those words like that just mean that you don't really have a choice. You can't get by without it. It has to happen. Andre also says, I had put a great deal of preparation into the meeting, but instead I was embarrassed in front of a valuable client. So preparation is the noun form of prepare. It's the act of getting ready for something, doing all that work that needs to happen before an actual event. If you're doing preparation for an exam, you'd read your class notes, you'd read your textbooks, you'd maybe do some practice questions to get yourself really ready. All of that is preparation. It's the stuff you do before an event. For example, Rachel's wedding involved getting 500 guests to Hawaii, so it took almost a year of preparation. There was a lot of time planning out who will get where, how will they get there, which planes, where will they stay, how will we all get to the wedding. So that's a great deal of work to do before the wedding, so that's a lot of preparation.
There you go. And of course, this client was very valuable to Andre. Now, in its most basic way, valuable, this adjective, we use it to talk about things that are worth a lot of money, right? A gold ring, a diamond earrings, a painting by Picasso, a Ferrari sports car. These are very valuable. They're expensive. They're worth a lot of money. But we can also use it, and we do use it, to talk about things that are important to us. Maybe not in a money way. You can't put a dollar value, a dollar price on some things, but they're still valuable to you. Your friends, your family, your health, your happiness, these are valuable as well. So Andre's client could have been worth a lot of money. It could have been a big business deal that he was doing with some billionaire business person. That, of course, is valuable. But maybe it's also a client who's a good friend, someone he's been working with for a long time, someone they were going to sign a contract for a really important deal that they'd been working on for a year or something like that. But it was very important, and for Andre at least in this business sense, maybe worth a lot of money, but certainly very important, something he didn't want to lose so easily. For example, a wise old man once told me that time is more valuable than money.
That is true. So Andre says, I trust you will be understanding and return my money in full. Here, trust is not quite the same as saying I trust somebody, I believe what they'll do if they say they'll do it. Here, this is the kind of polite phrase you might put in a letter saying, I hope you will, I really think you will, because you should. Often it's kind of got the same meaning as should, like you should give my money back. And in fact, he wants the company to return his money in full. So in full means all of something, the total amount of that thing. He doesn't just want part of his money back. He doesn't want maybe an apology and a little gift, or somebody to say, well, next time you book with our company, we'll give you a discount, or we'll upgrade you to first class without any extra money. No, he wants his money in full, the total price of the ticket he bought for that plane that was delayed.
And then he finishes it by saying, sincerely, Andre Teo. Is that his last name?
I guess so,
Okay,
yes.
so yeah, he basically finishes off the letter by saying, sincerely. That's a very sort of basic, simple, formal way of ending a letter. Thank you very much. Looking forward to hearing your reply. Something like that. So it's basically just saying, thank you very much and bye-bye. And here's my name.
Yeah, now that's the end of his letter. Do we think it's good enough? Do we think it will work and get him his money back in full? We'll discuss that in our For You Chat question.
For You Chat.
So the question is, do you think Andre has a right to be upset? And would you give him his money back? Or do you think he didn't plan his trip well enough? I think he's got a right to be upset.
You have a right to your feelings almost any time.
Yes, I mean, if you were delayed for 3 hours in a situation like this, it is understandable that you're not going to be happy about having to either wait 3 hours or pay for a whole new plane ticket.
There you go.
Sure, he can be upset. No one's saying he shouldn't be.
Nope. But
however,
no one has to care how upset he is, first of all. The world doesn't have to care about your feelings. You can have those feelings, but no one has to say, that's really important to me. It might not be important. And also, in this business sense, no, I don't think he's going to get his money back because the airline, there wasn't a lot that they could do about it. They did the best that they could. It was his choice to buy a ticket on another airplane. They were going to get him there just a bit late. And the other thing is that, if airlines did this and paid everyone back every time there was a delay, they would run out of money.
Pretty fast, yeah.
Very quickly.
I also want to point out the timing here. So Andre's got a business meeting at 7 in the evening, but he's not leaving, presumably, Taiwan until 1:30. So even in the best of times, a 2 to 3 hour flight to Tokyo?
3.5 to 4.
3.5 to 4. So then it's going to take you the best part of an hour to get through immigration, customs, visas, passports, luggage. And the Tokyo airport is going to take, the best part of an hour to get into the city.
Well, actually, if he goes China Airlines, he'll land at Tokyo City Airport, which is in the city. But if he takes EVA, then he's at Haneda, which is like an hour and a half by train.
So whichever way.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It would be close even if he left at the right time.
Yeah, even if everything works out well,
Yes.
he's not even going to get a chance to go to his hotel, take a shower, change his clothes, and then show up in a nice new fine suit for his business meeting. He's going to show up in the same clothes he wore on the plane, which could be a little smelly, a little wrinkled.
So what you're saying is he should have taken the 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. plane if he really wanted to be sure to get there on time.
Or flown in the day before so he could have a nice
better.
night in the hotel. I mean, if this is an important business meeting, he really has not prepared well for it. He's getting there at the last minute and showing up at the restaurant. So he said, I had put a great deal of preparation into the meeting. I don't buy that because if he really had, he would have made sure he was there in the morning or the day before so he could be fully rested, refreshed, and ready to go to this meeting, this business dinner with a valuable client in the best possible situation.
So you definitely think he didn't plan his trip well enough.
Absolutely. And so if he doesn't get his money back and if he got embarrassed, well, that's a lesson learned for you, Andre. Try not to kind of leave things till the last minute next time.
That's right. And the other thing, of course, is that in the real world, airlines don't give you your money back for things like that.
Yeah, especially if you choose to change your ticket rather than just accepting the delay.
Sorry, Andre.
Yep.
Better luck next time.
Ah, well. And that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for listening, everybody. For English For You, I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
We'll talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Requesting a refund for a delayed flight. JetMax Airlines, Customer Services Division, 380 Section 1, Shindong Road, Taoyuan. To whom it may concern. On January 21st, I was booked to travel to Tokyo on Flight 387, but the flight was delayed. The gate agent said it would take 3 hours to find a replacement plane. Because all your other flights to Tokyo were full, I had no choice but to buy a ticket on another airline. Therefore, I am requesting my money back. I understand that you can't usually provide refunds for unpredictable setbacks. However, I don't understand why you didn't put us on the plane for the 3 p.m. flight instead and have its passengers wait 90 minutes. You made the passengers on my flight wait twice as long. Because you failed to handle this situation well, it caused considerable problems. I departed later than expected at twice the cost, and then I arrived late to an essential business dinner. I had put a great deal of preparation into the meeting, but instead, I was embarrassed in front of a valuable client. I trust you will be understanding and return my money in full. Sincerely, Andre Tio.
Vocabulary Review. Replacement. I dropped my phone and broke it yesterday, so I need to get a replacement today. Request. The customer at table 5 requested a glass of water. Could you please go give her one? Considerable. I'm having considerable difficulty with this problem. Can you help me figure it out? Depart. The train will depart at 6:10 p.m., so we should be at the station by 6 p.m. Preparation. Jill's job at the restaurant is to make sure all the preparations for cooking are done before opening. Valuable. The company decided to hire Miranda because her computer skills are valuable to them.
智慧小补帖
Refund. Unpredictable. setback, essential.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net